This Japanese signature Stratocaster has specs I have not seen before. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Courtesy of Chris, utilizing my forwarding service to help him get this Japan exclusive guitar. We're talking about the Rei Stratocaster, and that's spelled R-E-I. It's this very interesting baby blue finish, kind of like a robin's egg. And at first you just might say, hey, that looks like a regular Stratocaster to me, but take a really close look and you might notice that things are not as they seem. First off, the satin finish on the back of the neck is very dulled down. However, the finish on the body is kind of like a semi-gloss satin. I wasn't knowing what to expect on that, so that's cool. We don't have any type of a backplate installed from the factory. The top of the finish matches what we felt on the back, but we actually have a glossed headstock here, and it's got that really cool old-timey Fender logo. The next thing you might notice is, hey, that Stratocaster body looks a little bit smaller than usual. This is very similar to the Japan Junior series that we've talked about in the past, where they shrink the body, if I remember correctly, like 6% or something. It's not a lot by any means, but did you notice this is a full-scale Stratocaster this time, unlike those short-scale Japan Juniors? And we've got a full 24 frets on here. That's 2 octaves for a Stratocaster, and we get the second double dot inlays. You don't see that every day. But another thing that I did not even know to expect when I ordered this, look at those side markers on the edge of the neck. Usually that's within the fretboard piece. This time it's within the neck. As a traditionalist, that looks really weird, but hey, it definitely stands out. So who is this mysterious Rei, and why does she have such a cool signature guitar? To sum her up in a few words, she is a solo singer-songwriter, so she does all the good stuff. She sings in both English and Japanese in her songs. And what's really cool about that is there's many artists that do that. However, she has almost no accent when it comes to her English because she grew up in many different locations. Born in Japan, raised as a toddler in France, spent most of her childhood in New York. I had never heard of her music before her Fender signature guitar, and I've got to say, I like what I heard. It's kind of like a funky J-rock mixed with some math rock elements, but yet she also has some softer stuff. So here's what I would suggest based on my first impressions. If you're into the whole funky, crazy guitar stuff, listen to Heaven, Coco, and Sunflower. And if you're in the mood for something a little bit lighter, check out Love is Beautiful with Ginger Root or Categorizing Me. She's done a lot of fun collaborations too, such as with Corey Wong. If you're familiar with his playing style, you'll like Rei too. Their song Hey Blue might be a play on the words for the official color of this guitar, Rei Blue. But what's really unique about Rei is her picking style. She utilizes a thumb pick, Chet Atkins style hybrid picking. And she is so effortless and fluid in playing. She makes everything look easy. The sign of a very skilled guitarist. So if you want to check any of her stuff out, you can find her on YouTube as Guitar Rei, guitar without the R, R-E-I. But this guitar is based on a modified Fender Stratocaster of hers that she put a lead 2 neck on. Now we have documented a few vintage leads, so if you want to check those out, they are available on my channel. But other things she brought over include a swept heel right here just to make upper fret access a little bit easier. Real mother of pearl dot inlays just to make them stand out. We've got our signature on the back side of the headstock, and then look at this. They called this the R246. I never noticed this until unboxing, but if you zoom in on the R, there's 2 dots there, likely because it makes a smiley face. Another one over there on the 4, but I believe the 24 stands for 24 frets, 6 for 6 string, R for Rei. Possible I could be wrong on that, but seems to make sense to me. The guitar itself is listed for 181,500 yen, and that's if you can find one. These have been really tough to find in stock. It took me a good 6 months to help Chris on this one, but he was patient, and thankfully we found one. But not only did she get a signature guitar release, she also has a signature strap as well as pick tin. But unfortunately, these are Japan flagship Tokyo store exclusives. But I just love the art style on this. It's very 50s retro, has the guitar back there. It says, "Meet Rei, the fine electric lady." And on the inside, now that I know about her signature picking style, it makes sense that you've got a couple of thumb picks. But on top of that, there's a cool triangular one. If you want to try something quite unique out. It says, "Rei plays Fender." Our next one is white. But on the other side, it's got that same little cartoon character on it. We have a very comfortable blue heart-shaped pick with her name. and Fender. A slightly smaller triangular one with the R246 branding. This one has that Ivoroid look with her signature and Fender on the inside. And guitarist. Or if you like the tortoiseshell look, they have one that just says Fine Electric Lady and Fender on the inside. These were 3,630 yen, so almost 30 bucks for 6 picks. It's quite a bit, but it's worth it for the tin. I wish I would have bought a second one of these for me because I can't actually find it listed online, so they might have been limited edition and gone. Maybe they're just waiting to restock, but the artwork makes me happy. And for 5,500 yen, you had the blue strap. It's really nothing all that special outside of the cosmetics. It's not leather or anything, just your regular seatbelt style. But you know what? I take that back. There is a little looper right here, which I would imagine maybe you could feed your cable through. So that is a cool special feature. But besides the added on accessories, it does ship with a padded gig bag. It's one of those pretty decent ones with about 1 inch of foam. And it has our usual giant pick warranty, Fender owner's manual, setup tools, and our trem bar arm with a aged tip. So first impressions, this thing is a lot of fun. But to learn more about this fine electric lady, let's go ahead and throw it onto the workbench to take an individual look at its parts and specs, because we didn't even talk about the pickups. Inside Rei Stratocaster, I was surprised. I thought for sure this was just a reused Japan Junior style body, but sure enough, taking this out reveals a swimming pool route. And if you check out the last Japan Junior Stratocaster that we reviewed, it was HSH routed. So I wonder if this was specifically requested by her for like additional weight relief, or this is like XXX year Stratocaster, or does she even know about this? So if you love the look of this guitar and you don't necessarily care about our stock noiseless electronics, feel free to modify it with whatever you'd like because you've got the space. Lots of bumpiness to our finish here. Not sure if that's just not completely sanded flat or if things are getting built up, but that is present all over. While we're on the topic of the Japan Juniors, if you're asking me, is this the exact same style finish? I would honestly say no. This feels like a semi-gloss that's more so a little bit on the satin side of things, whereas the Japan Juniors are what I consider an eggshell finish. They have a slight texture to them. This is completely smooth. So it is a little bit different after all. But these don't really have a fancy name. They just called them Stratocaster Vintage Noiseless. So we can take a quick look at the backside of them and look at their number codes just in case that helps someone someday. Otherwise, our pots are the full-size ones, 250K. Looks fairly standard in here. I suppose we should measure this. I get about 10¼ inches right here for our upper bout. The lower bout is ever so slightly shy of 12 inches. And then from where the body starts to the very end, I would call it 14¾ inch. And if you're curious about the pick guard, I'd say 6¾ and then over here, it's about 7¾ Jump back onto the outside. If you're curious what was written on the pickups, it's noiseless. And the pole pieces are staggered on these pickups. And you've got this nice bone color to the pickup covers, your knobs, your trem bar arm if I had it on, as well as your toggle switch tip. But it's a traditional Stratocaster. You've got a master volume for everything, then a tone just for the neck, and a tone just for the middle, none for the bridge. And it's just your regular neck, middle, bridge, and then the in-between positions. And those are readings within the circuit: 10.54 in the bridge, 10.28 in the neck. The middle pickup is 10.67. Then neck and middle together, 5.26, and bridge and middle finally at 5.33. Now, if you think that sounds hot, just remember, the way that you make a single coil noiseless is you stack it like a humbucker, which then in turn gives you double the normal reading. So that's why these things stick out just a little bit more than a regular one. But there's a few different ways to make things noiseless. But now let's check out what's under our output jack. Nothing too crazy. It doesn't look like we're going to see the basswood body exposed anywhere, but that's what they are crafting these ones out of. It's nice lightweight material. Speaking of materials, this is supposed to be a parchment 3-ply pick guard. It's got a white-black-white layering to it. And we've got a 2-point synchronized tremolo system, and they utilize these very premium Graphtec saddles. Those are supposed to help you stay in tune a little bit better, especially on a trem system. Well, moving on from our body, we can talk about our neck now. It's maple, and you've got a rosewood fretboard. Now, I've had the privilege of reviewing many of Made in Japan guitars, and I've got to say, was a little bit let down by this fretboard. Now, don't get me wrong. It's beautiful, it's nice, this exceeds expectations at most manufacturers. But again, take a look at that last Japan Junior Strat we reviewed. That fretboard was so finely sanded, it had almost a gloss look to it. This one did not have that at all and looked really dry, so I went ahead and conditioned it. But the frets are still absolutely excellent. They do a nice job with that. But the spec sheet does indeed call these real mother-of-pearl inlays, which you don't normally find. Neither do you normally get the full 2 octaves and the additional doubles. But again, note the dots on the side of the neck. Very unique. But our bow net measures 1.58 inches. Just barely making it to 2 by the 12. Wow, really? 0.78 first fret neck depth. And 0.89 by the 12th. They call it the Rei Original C. It is a fairly skinny neck this way. I mean, it chunks up a little bit here, but it's very narrow. It's not super wide feeling. It's comfortable, even to a guy who has larger hands. It's great for that funky stuff that she does. Here's a look at that profile at the 1st fret and the 12th fret. You can see just how narrow that neck is up there, but widens up just a tad. But this utilizes the vintage really round 7¼ inch fretboard radius. But despite our 2 octaves, it's still a 25½ inch scale. Now, moving on to our headstock. We don't have locking tuners or anything like that. It's just your regular vintage style, poke it down, wrap it around. I was happy to see that personally. We've got the black plastic capping off our truss rod at the top. But look how nice that rosewood board looks with a little bit of a gloss clear coat. But I'm a big fan of this Fender logo. Whatever era it is, it's just gorgeous. I like that black outline it has. When you get it in the light, it does color shift from a darker gold to a brighter one. And it's the nice slim headstock shape. And this one also utilizes 1 string tree, but it's just so interesting how Rei got them to do a gloss headstock, but everything else is satin, because that just has to be a pain in the butt from a manufacturing standpoint. Leave these areas alone, but hey, we're gonna buff this one up. Because I really don't think it would have looked that bad not being gloss, and that's just part of what makes this one so fascinating. But slipping on over to the back, there's not too much going on back here because, once again, it doesn't have any type of a back plate, not even screwed on for it. So you can see the back side of our tremolo unit. And it's just all about that comfort cut with our strap buttons in the usual locations on the horn and at the bottom. You can see our swept heel over here, which is something that makes it different from the Japan Junior series. And then I noticed this while unboxing it. This neck happens to have a little bit of flame figuring in it right there. And really throughout the neck, it's very mild, but if you know to look for it, it does play peekaboo occasionally. Not crazy enough to actually call it a figured neck though. But the finish on the back of the neck feels very similar to what we have over here. Like you can feel the grain of the wood. And this may be a good or a bad thing depending on who you are. You can actually feel a difference between the maple wood and the walnut. It's not like a super ridge or anything, it's just the wood grain difference. Maple doesn't have a whole lot of wood grain to it, and you can see it's got a lot of cool ringiness. But here in the light, you can see the pores of the walnut. So that's what that whole phenomenon's about. As we make our way up to our headstock to see the R246 branding again, we've got our serial number dating this one to 2025, made in Japan, and Rei's signature decal, and the backside of our Kluson tuners. But all said and done, the Rei Stratocaster weighs just under 7 pounds, 6 pounds, 15.3 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how it sounds. That's an attempt to play some of her song Heaven. That's just such a cool chord progression. I like the tones you get out of that Ivoroid pick. As opposed to this Tortex. It's a very interesting sounding Stratocaster. Since these are noiseless single coils, I don't always love them because it makes them a little bit darker sounding, but when you're trying to play her music, it nails that tone. But that bridge is still pretty spanky. I'd say these are one of the first Stratocaster noiseless that I've actually liked. Let's go ahead and kick on the dirt with a loose attempt at her song, Coco. So there we go, the Rei R246 Stratocaster. I think we can all agree this is very uniquely spec'd, from the 24 frets, the finished stylings, the noiseless Stratocaster pickups.
It's a very unique beast. But if nothing else, because let's face it, not a lot of people are going to go out and buy this guitar necessarily, but please check out Rei's music. If you love songs that are so heavily into the guitar and it's funky, it's fun, she needs to branch out into the United States, and hopefully this helps get her a few more fans over here anyways, because I had no idea going into this how fantastically funky all that stuff is. So I hope those sneak peek of a couple of songs was able to whet your appetite. But overall, as far as the Strat goes, it's typical Fender made in Japan goodness. A little bit smaller, so if you're a big guy like me, I didn't really notice it being too small, but I didn't really like A-B it towards a normal Stratocaster. But thank you, Chris, for entrusting me to get this guitar for you out of Japan. If you, the viewer, happen to need something over there, feel free to reach out and we can see if it's possible. But alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.